My name is Gasia, Mikaelian, and I'm coming to you through KTVU Fox 2 News in the San Francisco Bay Area. We are talking about getting hired and not getting fired when it comes to your work and your social media accounts. Let's talk more about this with Umesh Ramakrishnan. You're the co-CEO of Kingsley Gate Partners. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It's a pleasure.
It's great to be with you. I was just joking with you a minute ago that thankfully I'm old enough to have escaped the trap of social media in my teens and 20s. So all the stupid things I did were not recorded online forever. But these days, I'm assuming hiring managers are looking at people's social media accounts, and people who post don't always think about, will my next boss like this?
Absolutely. And if you're too old for this, you can imagine where I sit on it. So, Gasia, it's not just social media, it's your digital footprint, right? We leave digital footprints every day like we leave our footprints in the sand or in the snow. The problem is, you leave your footprint in the sand, somebody behind you on the beach may see this. You leave your footprint in the digital world, 7.1 billion people can see it. So one of the first things people should do is Google yourself. Most people don't realize that just by simply doing this one thing, you will find out things about yourself that you may not even know existed. That would be bad. Or there may be things on page number one that you had done a long time ago that you really would not want people to find. So there are things you can do to avoid that. Bring the things you want to the forefront and things that you don't want pushed to the back of a Google search. But that would be one of the first things I would recommend to your viewers.
Okay, so Google yourself, as painful as that may be. Let's talk specifically about social media, and it goes way beyond Twitter. Now there's Instagram, now there's TikTok. There are so many avenues for people to express themselves, which is great. But again, if it's, midnight on a Saturday on my friend's 21st birthday weekend, I'm a different person then than I am 9 o'clock Monday morning. How should we think about what we post?
Well, I'm going to use your example to sort of highlight this issue. If you're having your friend's 21st birthday at her home, go nuts. Do whatever you do on a 21st birthday, which is far too long ago for me to even, recollect. But if you were doing this in a public place, in the middle of a busy restaurant, you're not going to jump on the top of a table and start opining on controversial topics, on religion or politics. Well, if you're not going to do that in a restaurant in front of, let's say, 200-300 people, why in the world would you do that in front of billions of people on digital media? So, it's okay to have an opinion. Voicing it would be the same as voicing it amongst your known circle of people. You would say some things to family and friends. You wouldn't say that in public. Anything you say on the digital world is in public. So be very cognizant of it.
I know a lot of people say, oh, but I keep a really tight rein on who I allow into my Facebook, or I keep a really tight rein on who's allowed to, follow me on Instagram. But even that sort of restriction doesn't prevent video, images. I mean, I can take a screen grab of anything, right? And send that out to anybody I want. So might those be sort of false reassurances we give ourselves?
It is actually a lot more than false reassurance. It's being naive. If, at the beginning of this, when you set up the recording, you said, I'm my own IT person, right? Kudos to you. Most people wouldn't know how to do most IT things. So unless you're somebody who knows how to hack or how to prevent a hack, you can never sit assured that whatever you do there is for the eyes of only the people that you've connected with. When you put something out there, and I say this to my 23-year-old son all the time, when you write something in the digital world, or you say something, or you take a picture of something, that lives forever. You may have it protected today, but the friend that you were friends with today may not be a friend tomorrow. And guess what he or she could do with that information?
Right. Now, it's difficult for some people to look at it this way, but you can have someone who engages in all sorts of behavior that you might not personally agree with, but is still legal. And that same person can be an excellent employee, exactly what you want for your company. So the question is it ethical for hiring managers and companies to look at what a person does, say midnight on a Saturday, to help make the decision of, should I hire this person to be in front of me Monday morning, 9 a.m.?
One question is it ethical? The other question is it legal? So for instance, in Europe with GDPR, they have become very stringent with what you can or cannot snoop in terms of anybody's digital work. In the US, we have not yet gotten that strict. So it does border on the line of ethics. You know, ethical or not, legal or not, Gasia, you are not going to be able to stop a hiring manager in the dead of the night in the middle of his basement searching for digital work that you've done. So it's less of an issue of being either ethical or legal. It's more of you as an individual protecting yourself by not saying, doing, or picturing or picturizing anything that's inappropriate.
Right. It's almost like assume they're going to search for whatever you've done. Assume
And
it's
they
going to
will.
be found. And they will. You know, it's interesting. I've been put in a position recently from some of the members in my news department. They will, ask to follow me on my private social media accounts, or, they'll say, oh, I posted this funny thing to Instagram. You should follow me. And I've actually had to decide that I really don't want to follow my colleagues because I do want to see them in a professional light. And when I learned that they were out, on a party bus, drinking all weekend or whatever it was, it does sort of color how I see them when we're all together in the newsroom again.
Well, there's a famous Seinfeld episode where George said, my worlds are colliding, and that's a problem. So, don't let your professional and your personal worlds collide. In this digital ecosystem, that is a dangerous place to be. Like you correctly pointed out, somebody you respect tremendously may let you down personally. And if you start opining on that, now suddenly the walls between personal and professional opinion and interaction dissolve, and nothing good can come out of it.
Right, right. So good. So I don't have to follow them. Let's move to another topic that's very important to you and really should be important to every hiring manager, every worker out there. Unconscious bias.
Uh-huh.
Talk to me a little bit first about what unconscious bias is for those who may not know, and why it really can be a dangerous part of the hiring process.
Yeah, I mean, bias is something that's been in the news for the last few months nationwide, as you know. But most of the issues that have come to light are what you would term conscious bias, meaning that you actually have some opinion about another group of people that do not sound, look, or think like you. Unconscious bias is a bias that is applied to your mind that you do not know is being applied. And how does that happen? It's because we all grew up in different environments. Obviously your parents were different from mine. Our religions may have been different. Our communities, our friends, our teachers, everybody that shaped our minds are different. So simple words like entrepreneur or self-starter may mean something to you, may mean something else to me. And what happens is when somebody is in an interview situation, when they answer something, what they mean and what you interpret may be two different things. And how you interpret that meaning is governed dramatically by unconscious bias. So that is what unconscious bias is. How do you avoid that? You employ tools. You employ tools that eliminate unconscious bias. For instance, at our firm, Kingsley Gate Partners, we're an executive search firm. We have a tool called Athena, which essentially is an interview that you can do. And by the way, you and your viewers can do this for free. You can go to kingsleygate.com and go to Athena and do this interview. What does it do? It asks you questions, but your answers, whether it's Gasia that's responding, or Ramesh, or John, or Jill, doesn't matter. The system always has the same interpretation and removes any unconscious bias from that process. So hiring managers should be employing these tools to hire people. And one other point, not only should you employ tools, you should get opinions on your side. If you're the hiring manager, get an opinion from another peer who does not look, sound, or think like you, so that you can be shown that some of your conclusions are based on a bias that you did not know you had.
I know that we've done, I'm talking to you from the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. We have done so many stories about the lack of diversity in tech in Silicon Valley. Women often say, I'm the only one in my department who's not a white male, and other stories, it just goes on. So how do you recommend that hiring managers, or even just managers within a department, look at their team And if they don't like what they see, if they realize now, oh, we could be doing a better job here, how do you start taking those first few steps?
By setting an example. You start at the very top. California already has made some moves in this in terms of mandating board mix between male and female. And then the CEO, he or she needs to make a very conscious effort that their direct line of management reflects their customer base. It makes just good business sense to do this. And then ensure that their direct reports are given a mandate to ensure that their direct reports reflect their customer base. And listen, any business, if they reflect their customer base, will automatically have a diverse set of people, because we know that anybody's customer grouping is not monolithic by any means.
Right. It's interesting. I think about how, what, you know, I was born in, let me see, since we're giving it all away, right? I was born in 1975. My parents are immigrants. I'm Armenian. My name is Armenian. It's very distinctly so, much like yours, right? Your name is your identity. And back in the mid 70s, my parents told me that it was the melting pot era. And back then it was, you know, you're in America now, you know, and they were told by their peers, don't burden your child with an Armenian name, don't burden them with the Armenian language. And my parents felt very strongly that that was very, very important to them. And I've seen, you know, sort of the pendulum go from melting pot to now celebrating who you are and what made you who you are. So how can someone bring something that is authentically themselves into, let's say, a corporate setting, which might not seem very open or friendly to anything but, you know, you have to fit in this tiny bubble?
Well, this is personal for me. So to your point, when I started my career, and I've been in this country for well over 3 decades, I went by Umesh RK, just initials, because I just thought, you know, this is a long name and most people are going to ask me whether I have camels back home.
Right.
And my partner, actually happens to be my co-founder at Kingsley Gate Partners, Buster Houchins, who has been a partner of mine for well over 25 years. One day came to my office and said, what is this RK business? I said, well, my last name is Ramakrishnan. And he said, that's such a beautiful name. Why won't you put that on your business card? It was a white male telling me that I had a beautiful last name, something that I personally thought was going to be, you know, foreign just by its nature. And that opened my eyes completely. And from that day on, I've had Umesh Ramakrishnan on every business card. And what it has done is, anytime I get into a conversation, now people will ask, what do you think? And part of that question is, you may think differently than I do, and I would like to know what that thought is. There is richness, Gasia, in diversity, and that should be celebrated, not just in your personal life, but in the corporate world as well.
I love it. And thank goodness for the man who is now your co-CEO. We need more people like them. Before we have to end the conversation, I know that you've probably piqued a lot of viewers' interest when it comes to either managing your online profile or opening your eyes perhaps to greater diversity and you know, smashing some of the unconscious bias. Are there online references that you can point our viewers to who want to learn more about what you just discussed?
Yeah, you know, I think if they Google digital reputation consultants, and we are not any of them, but you know, there are lots of them that are reputable. There's also a few of them that are not. You can get some help for inexpensive fees, people that will help you set your digital reputation. Look, not having a digital footprint is not good for your reputation either. If I Google you and I can't find you, then I'm probably not going to spend too much time trying to recruit you. So it's not just important to have a reputation. You're supposed to meld that reputation into the persona that is you and can be reflected in the digital world. So I would go find them, get some help, do things like SEO, SEM, which essentially is a way that you get your good news to the front of the Google page and the bad news to the back of it. And that would be the first step that I would take.
Okay. And I assume there are resources as well on the Kingsley Gate Partners website?
Well, there are, but particularly I would recommend that they go and take Athena, which is the online structured interview. It's free. You get a report. Gasia, I would recommend you do it yourself. It will tell you what work environment you will do your best work in. And that is something that should be important to all of us.
Okay. Okay, well, like millions, I'm working in the home office, so this will have to do for now. But this has been such an enlightening conversation. I'm so glad that we had the chance to talk, you and I, and to share this with our viewers. So again, a big thank you to Umesh Ramakrishnan, co-CEO of Kingsley Gate Partners. Thank you
Gasia,
again, Umesh.
it was a complete pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.